Right. So, I was going to do different kinds of floral arrangements with you. This is something that I find we don't pay much attention to when we want to do floral art. We think of the flower, but very often we don't land up thinking about the environment that you want to put the flower in, depending upon the purpose of that painting. So that topic now, we can do it next week. And today we will look at inflorescences. Is that the right word? Inflorescences. So, an inflorescence, as you might remember, fourth, fifth standard biology or science is a cluster of flowers that all grows together. Uh, so, um, uh, I do realize that oftentimes trying to draw a cluster of flowers can be very daunting. Either we land up making far too much detail than is necessary, and in that process, we just lose the structure sometimes, or we can't show depth. Everything just starts looking like one big mess of brush strokes or paint without really making it look like a flower. So I've shared three images. One is hydrangea, the other is ixora, and one is a drawing of how. So this is a book that I've been compiling forever now on how to draw basic flowers. It gives you an idea of how to address each flower and then the whole cluster itself. So I'll speak about that as we go along. So, for today's class, I want to go very slowly and take into account color and detail and make the right shapes and the right with the right brush strokes and so on and so forth. We may not be able to complete the whole flower, but at least it'll give you in parts an idea of how you can complete it. So speed is not required today. Uh, and also, we will be playing a lot with more drier consistency of paint than just washes. Excuse me. Let me share the pictures and then I can speak about that more. Sorry, these now will just keep popping up. All right, so I have taken up slightly unusual view of hydrangea. Normally, we would look at a whole ball, but I've chosen one which is slightly it's seen from the side, and also we can see more of the stalk attaching to the flower and fewer flowers rather than too many. Similarly, the Ixora also this is a small bunch. Uh, a regular good size bunch would probably be two, three, four times this size, really densely packed flowers. I remember there was a time in the 80s when this was the plant of choice for all kinds of hedges. Everywhere you went, they would put these plants up. For some reason, I never found them very attractive. And then the hydrangea just looks like a slightly plumper version of the ixora. Again, four petaled flowers. And this one has now become all the rage. There's something about flower clusters that just looks very enjoyable. Right. So, when you look at a structure like that, uh, instead of looking at, so there's a bunch of ways that one can see this. First is the overall shape that the cluster makes. And within that, the shape each floret makes, each small flower makes. Now, if we look at the flower head on, it is in somewhat of a diamond shape or an oblique square shape. But that is not how it presents itself uh, in within the inflorescence because it spreads across what almost looks like a global spread. As it comes to one side, that square starts becoming smaller narrower or thinner from all the edges. And then in many places, you only see parts of the flower. So when looking at anything that is this busy, it helps to break down and categorize. So you will see a certain number of flowers that look that are looking at straight at us. So we have this one, this one, this one. Now, in identifying these, you'll notice how they are not placed one next to the other. They are placed on almost a pretty defined diagonal. You can almost predict where the next flower is going to come. So, in this observation itself, you are able to clearly study the placement. It's a very nice, almost regular pattern. Then the other um, shapes that we see, here we don't even see the flower, but we will only see petals popping up because the flowers are either compressed or they are only the petals which rise up from the sides are popping out from the silhouette. So here we don't even see an entire structure of the flower. If you don't see it, don't artificially try to look for it. This is a mistake that is often made. We are thinking flowers, so we are trying to make flowers. Whereas in this case, you only need make a shape, one shape after another. So for all practical purposes, these petals on the side are no better than petals of maybe sunflowers or daisies. They are just supporting the shape of the flower. And their colors will change. The orientation will change because they are not all from the same flower, from the same center. That's another thing that you need to be aware of. But other than that, just structuring these will easily start giving you the shape of the flower. Now, in order to draw the flowers, we identify the basic structure, center of flower, shape of petal, and then orientation of the petal and the face of the flower. This almost looks like an embroidery design, the way it is so regularly distributed. So these are centers, and now let's study the structure. So all the petals seem to go at exactly 90 degrees to each other from the center. Of course, in some places, if there is some pressure from other directions, the petal might go to the side. Here, it almost looks like there are 5 petals. So, draw the 5 petals. It's very unusual. Maybe this is a genetically modified hydrangea. Here also, I can see 5 petals. As if a thick inflorescence with 4 petal flowers was insufficient. Somebody said, let me just make 5 also. Why not? It's just hubris at work. Okay. So you get the picture. Now, in this also, if you try, you can see how the petals nestle into the negative spaces provided by other petals. They may or may not. They may clash or they may just sit a little sideways. And then the petals which are along the sides, you'll see that they tilt slightly upwards. So just with this, we are able to study the structure. This is all about observation. If you observe well, you will draw much better. I'll share a picture of this so we can keep referring to this when we are making the drawing. Now, we'll do the hydrangea first, and then I'm going to ask you to attempt the ixora on your own. You can notice that the structure is pretty much the same. The way the picture has been taken, the orientation might be slightly different. We have flowers towards the bottom of this globe looking towards us, and then everything starts looking away and things start flattening a little bit. Again, you have a center and you have petals oriented at 90 degrees perpendicular to each other from the center. So here's how I have shown you the structure of the inflorescence, starting with the flowers that you can see fully. That is where you begin, and then you start filling in the rest of the flowers. So this is a very graphic way of drawing a flower, but at least it gives you a slightly clearer look at the lines of the petals and the floral structure. On top, you'll see the flower as it is seen on the front, from the front. And just below that, there's something called the three-quarter view. We see that even in faces, when you turn the face not completely to the side, but somewhere sideways, so that you can just see one side of the face clearly and more of, you see a little bit of the other side, but not fully. You can't see the ear. So something like that is also seen in flowers, and you see those flowers around the periphery of the globe of the flower. Okay, so today when we're drawing this, I want you to uh, first draw a small section. So we'll be drawing it in parts to understand the structure since we want to draw it in detail. And we will, I'll try and show you how you can do a proper study of flowers while you are looking at detailing it as well. The first process that I indulge in is to make a loose sketch, make pencil shading, understand the structure of the whole inflorescence, the whole globe. Then I will make a small picture of one petal. Oh, it's not one petal, one flower. That flower will then be painted. We will try test out colors and everything. And then there could also be a testing of colors of the globe. And then finally, taking information from all this, the real picture is illustrated. So I want to run this procedure by you. That way, when you are looking at flowers or trying to make floral illustrations that are more formal, you should not dive into like how we start with class, just dive into that flower, make a quick sketch and start painting right away. You need to have at least two, three different things that you are testing out back and forth, or at least study first and then start working on the final flower. Let's see if we can do that.
Aditi, will you share a picture of what should I say, the last image that you created with the circles and the centers and
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I
of the
have that, right.
oh.
Okay, so as usual, we'll make the final illustration over here and we'll use half of the page to study, to make our studies. You can choose to make the study in from different angles. You could first make the flower and then make the whole inflorescence sketch and then shade. or vice versa. So I like to do the full structure first to understand how everything in that structure works. We might even go ahead and paint that. In order to do that, I will make a loose sketch. We have made those loose sketches, I think last year, but yeah, these are still very formal. But I can go over it again and I'll show you how. So first and foremost, in the loose sketch also, we need, maybe you all can observe first and then start making. Just give me about 5, 6 minutes. I'm hoping to do it as a quick sketch. So the first thing to do is figure out the overall shape. It's almost like a kidney. And then in that, each of these areas, you will see a certain bunch of flowers. You'll see one flower here, one here. So you start breaking up the space to create room for all the flowers. This way, there are no surprises. If we start with detailing in one corner, we may either make a very big flower or a very small flower. So to avoid that, break the space up. That is why it helps to have a smaller inflorescence to study rather than like a 20,000 flower inflorescence. That would be ridiculous. So here at best we have maybe 15 or 20 flowers. We can actually count most of them. When you're making these shapes, you'll make them like how I have made the circles. Some of them are more circular, some of them on the side are more oval. Instantly, this will give you the orientation of the flower. Now look for the one flower in this gaggle that you know you can make. It doesn't have to be the one on top. It can be the one, anyone, now that you have made this, anyone that you think you can draw, you can start with that. So I'm starting with the one closest to the stalk. Although this is not even a full flower, this starts me off on, gives me an idea of placement. Okay, now that you know the size that I'm making it, I'm going to bring the camera a little closer so you can see details. From here, I can see the stalk entering in also. So I can see the relation of the flower to the rest of the plant. And then I'll start making the next flower, which is hidden behind others. And then move to the next one. And every time I move, I look at the placement. Where should the center be? At what angle to the previous flower should it be? The petal on this flower, there's one damaged petal on this flower, which I'm ignoring. And drawing the rest. Now, at this stage, if you try to draw up to this stage, you will realize whether or not you can make the petals at all. So if you are able to make the petals, we will complete this. If not, at this stage, you can shift and first study the flower. Okay, so before going any further, I would like you to at least come to this stage and then we will all make it more detailed. Okay, how many of you are able to make the shape of the flower easily, or is it challenging?
It's easy.
Aditi ma'am, does the shape look okay to you?
Mm. Yeah, Shivani's looks okay. Let me see Ritika's. Yes, that looks okay. Okay, so just to figure this out, you can make a small flower on the side. Shall I see yours, Ritu? One second. Yeah. So Ritu, you seem to be struggling with the shape of the flower. There's too many
Mm.
lines coming there.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you want single lines, right?
Well, yeah, but also the line is not giving the right
Shape.
information. Okay, let me explain. Our natural tendency, and I think this has to do with our nationality, is to make petals or leaves with very pinched edges. So just check if your petals have this look. Is there a point? So the structure of the flower or the petal is more rounded. So it may be something like this, but it just that rounding off the corner will make it more like a hydrangea. So it's bound to happen that when we draw a flower like that, you have the center, you have the direction of the petals. Uh, when you draw two arcs coming outward, they usually meet at a sharp tip, but avoid that and make it into a sharp round, if you know, if you can kind of see what I'm doing there. So it looks like this was going to join in a very sharp tip, but the last minute, those two lines soften up. Now, also there is, I'm getting into the nitty-gritties of this flower today because I feel sometimes these are the things that we gloss over and then spend a lot of time in trying to figure out what went wrong. So when you make an arc that is even throughout, this is what you will get. But this is not clearly how the flower of the hydrangea is. It is a little fatter, lower, fatter than this. So it goes a little beyond. So we're not at half point. And then it converges. And the line here is much straighter. So it's not as rounded. Same thing over here. Over here also it's rather straight. So there are very subtle shapes that we need to change. So in this process, if you'll end up making something that looks like this, because you'll say she said make this straight, I made it straight, then make this straight, I made it straight. So now it's looking more like a diamond. You're still closer and better off than making the petal like how you would normally make a leaf. A very even arc from both sides. To this shape now, if we make some adjustments, we will get there. round this off a little bit. Now adjust this a little bit. And adjust this a little bit. And then see if that works. Now, so this is one exercise you have to do if you want to if you want to make an accurate flower. It's almost like making a botanical illustration to understand the structure. Yeah, let me see yours, Alka.
Which one?
Can you hold it slightly higher and to the right? Okay. All right. Yeah, you're kind of getting there. Good. Okay, let's continue. Let's finish these tiny flowers. So at any point, if you feel you're not getting something, for the moment, just put a pin in it. Make the flowers the way you can make to the best of your ability for now. But don't get don't get off on this station. Continue on the rest. Right, making the rest of the flowers. Now after I've made this in proportion, I am zooming into the picture so that I can see other details more precisely. Normally, I advise not to zoom into the picture because you don't want to mess with the proportion. But there is a right time to do it, and that's after you have made the overall picture and you have broken it up into small sections. So it's almost like holding the book, your drawing book, very close to you. Automatically the proportions will increase. And at this stage, try to identify each of these petals, how they exist. Now, this exercise is for you to um, make one observation. So in Marathi, they say डोळ्या खालनं घाल. It's just about allowing your eye to pass quickly over every little thing that you can notice. By now, I'm sure you're pretty convinced that the more you observe, the more you see. So this is one quick perfunctory look at what is happening. And the next time we make this, you will see something else, so on and so forth. So without dwelling too long, yet not missing out too many details, I'm trying to draw the edges of as many items as I can identify over here. So in some cases, that item is a flower, some cases it's a petal. I want you to stop thinking about what you're making and just make it the way you're seeing it. Ideally, at this stage, don't use an eraser. Make some adjustments. Some places accept that you might not get, you didn't make stuff in the right place, but that'll help later. Okay, now I'm going to leave the top half unfinished because I want to show how the whole process of making this was. And now I will start shading the dark spaces. So this is a little bit like negative painting. This stage will help our flower emerge. and for you to be able to see the shapes clearly. So don't color in the flowers yet, just the shapes in between. In different shades, of course, because they're not all black. But sometimes even that is done. All the space in between is colored in black, especially if you're doing a digital illustration. It's easy to just select and color. This is one of my favorite exercises for beginners. We haven't done this enough, I feel. While I'm making that, I realized that some shapes can be adjusted, some placements can be adjusted. So I'm changing that as well. And now as I come to this side, some petals in the back, now there aren't too many dark spaces, but there is a nice shaded petal that gives the flowers in the foreground more importance. So I can now shade that part. Are you seeing how your flowers will now emerge out of this mess? You'll be able to confidently strengthen that line. So in order to be able to do this well and clearly, it helps to have that light hand to draw the first shapes. Now we can start shading in the individual petals which are even in the foreground. So here this petal has a dark side on the left and some highlights on the right. As you can see, my original pencil lines are still also there and they are looking a little disturbing. If they become too annoying, then I'll just erase them, like in this flower. In this particular flower, this part is too dark. And it's a horrible shape also. So I would suggest that this can also be a spare time activity. Like all the other exercises that we have done in the past. The not so much the waiting room activity as filling up doodle textures and all, but certainly if you don't have any project, then this is a nice one to take on. Creating studies of flowers. And of course, this can be an independent journal on its own. Okay, how's it going? Are you able to see these shapes slightly better now? Great. All right, now we have to draw the whole thing again in fair.
What?
Yes,
Draw the whole thing again.
yes.
Yeah,
This
this is
can
the
be.
shading one, she said. Like, that's again.
This is what
Oh.
everyone avoids doing.
Oh, this reminds me of teacher training college. Lecturers used to be saying, redo, redo. Oh no.
Restart. If you
No,
watch the
just
movie
now,
French Tale.
have faith in yourself. This is like the real thing. This time we can make it much bigger
Is
so
this
that
okay, Aditi?
when we start painting it, then we can add details. Let me also announce the bonus that in this illustration you can use an eraser.
Yay. So
And
now we
it's
have to
not
get up to there before
painting.
we start again. No, we can't just go back to start from where we are. See? Can you see?
Let me, yeah, wait, huh? Huh. Nice. Why is your line looking very wobbly to me? Is it the camera?
My line?
Yeah, the line of
What?
the petals is looking very wobbly.
I think because I'm doing it very slowly.
Okay, so look at this flower here, Alka.
Huh,
That 5 petal flower.
huh.
Um,
The one that's looking slightly in front, no?
yeah, it's looking like it's convex when it should
Huh.
be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It-
Why? Why is that?
Yeah,
I'm not able to
that's
get that.
yes, that's the lines of the petals. So this one,
Huh.
you have made the petal like this, I think.
Yeah.
So it is pointing outward. However, if you make it come down the way it is,
Huh.
and then this goes straight up, that will make it not look like it is bending forward, but at least
Okay.
sitting straight. Then this fellow comes like this,
Huh.
and then this fellow sits like that. And your oval is slightly flat from the left and round from the right, the center.
Okay.
Okay. So let me do this one. This is already looking like it's looking outward. It's
Huh.
convex. Let me convert this convex to concave. Wait. So this is it's the distances. Shorten this fellow. Straighten this guy. And make a slight curve in this way over here. And then lengthen these out. Bring this out much further. See how far it actually goes. And then this fellow comes here. Yeah, can you see how that is
Yeah.
now pointing? And also these lines, curve them a little bit to reinforce the idea that the lines are like this. Okay, shall we now? Big flower.
This time, are we painting?
We are going to paint the big flower. Everything we are painting, we have time. Make the big
No,
flower,
I
please.
want to change the paper. That's all. I have a
Oh,
sketching.
sorry,
That's all.
what?
I'm just changing the paper. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, why are you changing the paper?
I went and bought this sketchbook, which is not for watercolor. So I use that for the sketching.
Oh,
Yeah, I made a mistake.
oh, okay, okay. But what paper is it?
The one I bought the other day for drawing, it says sketchbook 160 grams GSM.
And anything else? Does it tell you about the paper, acid free, whatever?
No, that's what this one does. This one says watercolor rough paper.
Do
Which is
one thing,
nice.
Shivani. Take a little bit of paint and put it on the side and just
I
test, no?
tried already. It's terrible.
Oh, yeah?
I lost confidence in my art last year because I started using this.
You lost
Because
what?
it says in the book confidence. Because it says fluent painting experience. I went and bought this thickest art book. And then when I started using, I couldn't do any art. And then I was crying one day saying I've forgotten everything.
Oh, dear.
I know. Then my daughter bought me for my birthday. Proper watercolor. So this one's good.
Okay, okay, good. ठीक है.
So that's why I was asking about the chain.
Yeah, yeah. So we will be painting.
Okay.
Aditi, can you just take a look?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sharpen my pencil. Let's see, Zai. Yeah. Zai, तुझे petals now they're becoming like that squarish.
Okay.
Go look in the picture again and see at what point how you need to change that line.
Okay.
Can you see
Structure
my
and proportion is fine. Madhuja's is looking good. Let me see in detail. Could you hold it slightly higher, Madhuja? I think proportion wise, no? Okay, good, good, very nice, looking good. Okay, who else? Ritika's is looking, yeah, Ritika's is also looking nice. Ritika, your petals are looking too rounded from the outside. So you have made the opposite of Zai. So maybe you need to streamline them a little bit towards the ends. And Ritu's is looking good. Very nice.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, chalo, let's start making the big flower.
Aditi, can you see my sketch? I've put it in the group.
Oh, okay. Yeah, looking good. Varsha, what pencil are you using?
This is Apsara 2B.
Okay. I think you can use it a little lighter and maybe sharpen it a little bit for this one.
Mhm.
And do that negative space shading before you start
Okay.
the next picture. Because I want you to
Okay.
see, just examine the orientation of the petals, the shapes of the petals outline. Mostly it is on track. A few
Mm-hmm.
places there's minor adjustments that should change. But the
Mm.
currently your line is too defined, too thick.
Okay. Okay.
So a bunch of things might be happening. You're probably holding your pencil too close, like we do with writing.
Mm.
So then you'll end
Correct.
up making very defined lines. So avoid that. Hold the pencil a little further away.
Mm.
Or if the pencil is too blunt, because today we are doing a more intensive sketch, the line then can be
Yeah.
you need a range of lines to work with. So in the beginning, hold the pencil further away and make the shapes. And also see if is your hand planted properly
Mm.
when you keep your pencil away. So I want to show you this. When we write, we hold the pencil like this. And when we draw, often we hold the pencil like this too. But the grip, because if we use a writing grip, the line is too firm. But if we move away, often we don't know how to do the drawing. So we'll end up holding the pencil like this without supporting it. Then we get very wimpy lines. And then between the first line and the second line on top of it, they're
Ah,
so the trick is
correct.
to keep your hand rested and yet be able
Mm.
to draw like that. Now, if we draw sideways, we have a better chance of getting all these shapes. But in a normal hold, sorry, let me backtrack. When we are drawing, there isn't one hold. You can use multiple holds, and you keep your hand away so that you can see how your line figures amongst all the other lines you've made. If you hold it too close, your hand itself obscures much of the drawing, so you can't really tell what is happening. And
Yeah.
sometimes you'll end up making the wrong line in the wrong proportion, in the wrong direction, whatever. So holding this further away, say if I'm making this line, I've already made something like that, or I've made something here, I can still tell the distances that I have available to make the next line. Then is the flexibility of the fingers. That will come in time. The more you hold the pencil further away. Holding it further away, you'll automatically make lighter lines because you just can't put any pressure at this angle any case. So that will help you keep your lines more scribbly and yet visible. Okay?
Yeah, got it.
Okay. Okay, so let's repeat the same process from before. This time making the picture bigger. And now I'm going to ask you to not look at what you've done before. You have the information. Start this picture fresh. If you
But
look,
can we see the photograph or
oh, one second.
we are not allowed?
No, you can see the reference image, of course.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be near impossible to make this without reference image. I mean, we'll all have to be very severely autistic to be able to do that. So don't look at this because in the beginning, it will give you the wrong information. And with looking at it afresh, you will have the wisdom from doing this before. It's almost like today, if you have to book a ticket to travel somewhere, what procedure will you take? versus what did you do in the past as a younger person? Any action, not just book a ticket. Once you've done it once before, there's so much you have learned from that experience that the next time round you know what to do to make that process better. So if we keep this open, we fall prey to this experience, and we might land up doing exactly the same thing, but that may not be the best thing to do. I remember how my first delivery was so painful, and I had just the uh, post op was very uncomfortable because I didn't know what to expect. And the second time, it was so smooth. I could have had 10 babies one after another on the same day, and I would be perfectly fine because I had set my systems right. So, though the action is the same, I had to deliver a baby, the process was completely different. So, the experience was completely different. So now I have made, like we did in the beginning, the same circles. This time I have changed the size of the circles just a little bit so that big flowers get bigger circles, small flowers get smaller circles. And I'm now going to focus on the details of the flowers. So I have enlarged the image also. All right, another tip. This is a good time to get something to cover your hand so that you don't smudge your pencil sketch. You can take your time in making this drawing. Don't rush. This time round, you should be able to see the lines of the petals and their interaction with other petals much better. Okay, is it any easier this time? Are you seeing other details? Let's try painting just a small section of these of this flower. So how about focus on 4 or 5 primary flowers in one locality, and let's try painting them. Today's painting is such that you can just easily expand that on the rest of the flower as well um, without drawing the whole thing first also. So those of you who are struggling with drawing today, I'm going to request you to please practice your pencil yoga. There's a chance that I don't know how many of you might be practicing, because honestly, if I were in your position, I wouldn't be doing it. So it's not as if I expect everyone to be doing pencil yoga. every day. But I can assure you that if you're not doing any other drawing every day, then definitely a few minutes of pencil yoga will help. In the past 3-4 years itself, since I started doing the online classes, and I have classes every day, my own art has improved by leaps and bounds. And the only reason that has happened is because I land up doing so much of illustration every day. Even if it's a half-hour activity, it adds to the bank. What is the, I think it can be equivalent to that recurring deposit or something. Every little bit counts. So if you are struggling, it's mostly because your muscles might not be, I think the muscles might give way. I can say for sure, sometimes when I'm drawing, if I could give an equivalent of the human body to the hand, my fingers are like how certain really healthy people's abs are. That I can hold a line and smoothly carry it with so that in this entire muscle from the top over here to the upper arm right up to my shoulder is so firm, so kadak, that in a way artistically I'm doing handstands or pull-ups, whatever they do to keep their abs strong. Okay, I'm now going to paint this section. We have just about 20 minutes, and I want to show you how to do these things which are replicable, so that even if we do part of the painting, you can then watch this part of the video again and complete the rest of your painting.
Aditi, mine has become darker.
Yours have become darker? What do you mean?
It is looking like uh, this one.
Let me have a look 1 second. Okay. No, that's okay. It's dark is not a problem. That's
Okay.
fine. You have this flexible eraser, Matuja?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so just just roll it on one section at a time, so that when you're painting, the lead does not make your colors dull. And then as you proceed to paint, at that point, remove the lead from the other areas. Okay, now for painting. If you're using the 24 or the 48 color kit, you might find a color that looks close to the hydrangea purple. And you can just use that in combination with some ultramarine blue and maybe some cerulean blue also to get that. But I want to work with the 18 color kit just because life is not very difficult for me. So I will add more challenges. All right, we need a lot of space. So if your palette is cluttered, just clean out one section. Because we are testing out colors, we will have to make different puddles, and you don't want those puddles to be contaminated by small bits of paint within the neighborhood. All right, this is adequate space, I should think. So when you are very new to watercolor, you may not be familiar with the different shades and different possibilities. It is always a good idea to make color swatches and write below the swatches what colors you have taken. At the outset, at the center of the flower, I can see definitely a cerulean blue. So before I paint anything, I'm going to make a patch and write what color it is. As usual, please make even these little things well composed. I'm going to make my series of color patches one below the other like that. If there is another composition that you'd like to make, go ahead. But definitely don't make one color here, one color there. Just write very casually. That's a very bad practice for just generally aesthetics. And when you are then coming up with creative compositions, all this lands up becoming that muscle exercise. Okay, the second color I'm testing out, this is ultramarine blue. Now, colors also have often two or three, I guess, avatars. You can get one that is a certain way when it is dark. That looks like a certain color or layered. And once it is watery, that gives you a different color. So you should be aware of which you are choosing. So it's good to make a dense color swatch and a watery swatch as well. Now, I think between the two of these colors, we should be able to manage the flower. But I'm going to experiment with a slightly mauvish shade where I'm adding crimson to the mix just a little bit. So this is ultramarine blue, UMB plus crimson. And you can tell the slight reddishness I have achieved seems a little better than just the plain ultramarine. So I would say the proportion is probably even 80-20, 80 ultramarine to 20 crimson, or even 90-10, but definitely not half and half. It's just a slight shade difference. Now we can use one of these colors. Yeah. Did someone say something? Sorry, I thought I heard someone. Okay. Yeah, so we can use one of these shades now to test out the color. And I am inclined to, I could in fact make another flower over here. One of the same flowers that we have here, I'll make on the side. So look at how many times you have to make the shape over and over and over again for different reasons. One is to study, then to get all the shapes right, then to get the color right, then for painting details. This is a process that I think most people don't see because it's veiled. Not every artist is going to put in their process. So when you see the final artwork, you'll say, oh, this is just one flower. Itna time kyun? Why is it so expensive or whatever? But this is the kind of study that has gone on behind it. Okay, I'm going to do a double wash with cerulean in the center, then merging into this ultramarine crimson mixture. So I'm going to make a puddle of ultramarine blue with crimson. And I already have a small puddle of cerulean. Now, choosing the brush size is very important. In some class last week, I came up with a solution to understand what would be, how do you determine the size of the brush to use? Firstly, you need to understand the volume of paint that each brush holds is different according to its bristles. So if you have a small area and you use a large brush, most likely that paint is going to come and vomit over your petal, and you're going to be left with too much medium, which you then have to start spreading out. So just as a thumb rule, or a rule of thumb, look at the area that you want painted. I'm not looking at the full flower. I'm looking just at one petal at a time. About anywhere from the square foot area of the size of your brush, the length of your brush, to about twice its size. So if this is 1 centimeter, 1 centimeter square, or at the most 2 centimeters square, that is your range. Anything more than 2 centimeters square, go for a slightly larger brush. You will notice that between brushes, the height changes according to the girth of the brush to accommodate for more medium. So I'm going by that logic right now, and I'm open to a change in that view as you go along also. Over time, you don't have to stick to this. You could possibly do a small merge as tiny as 1 millimeter with a 10 number brush also. That is a different thing. But in the beginning, it can be, it's good to have some guidelines. All right, I'm starting with the center, and I am going to spread this wishy-washy cerulean blue up to about a third of my petal, and then take the second color and merge in just one line. Wipe my brush and then pull this color further before it dries. And leave this to rest. So each petal, one at a time, will give us good results. If you feel that is too, that's going to go too slow, then we could experiment with making a cluster, which means draw again. This reminds me of a time when I had met a guy, a marathoner, for dinner once at someone's house. And I said, how do you how do you run so long? He's the guys who can run for 30 hours or whatever. They do crazy runs. He's done Ironman. So I love the idea of running. And I asked him, how do you run for so long? What is your secret? So he said, forget about the fact that it's a title like a marathon winner or Ironman winner. He said, for to be able to run that long, you must enjoy running, not the fact that you ran 50 marathons. That is a byproduct. So, in this particular case, the number of times I'm asking you to draw, it's you want to make a particular picture a certain way, you have to enjoy the process of drawing, regardless of the, how the picture is going to turn out. So if we have to make this even 50 times, you have to look forward to it. All right, now this clump of flowers, I will paint more like an all over wash. So in this case, I will start off with my 10 number brush, and I'm going to take a little bit of cerulean, again a little wash, and apply it in the center of the petals as I've done before, but maybe just 3 at a time. And then take the second color, again just a wash, and this time round just spread it liberally, carefully, but still not as intense as the previous one was. So go all around that cerulean by pressing the brush so that you embed the color. Keep your brush well hydrated. And then after it dries, you can take a call which one you prefer. So while the second one is drying, we will take a thin brush and now add some details. Let me just finish the second petal also.
Aditi, even for the cluster, you've used ultramarine blue itself, right?
Yeah, with crimson, the same color.
With crimson.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay.
Now I finished both of them, and once they dry, I can take a call. Now both will look good in different ways. So it's not as if only the detailed flower will look good. The other will also look pretty okay. there'll be other things that you can achieve with this. These beautiful clouds, color merges, that'll happen very nicely. Now, using the same color for detail, cerulean blue, I am filling in some sections with a thin brush. This is a 0 number brush. And here I will attempt to make the details of the petal. There are, I don't know what these lines are called. I'm sure there must be some lovely botanical name for these. Maybe just veins. When you're making these, please refer to the original image. Don't imagine these veins, because otherwise you will land up making flowers like we used to be taught in kindergarten. So this makes the center more or less complete. I have left a highlight in the center, but there isn't such a prominent highlight. So I'm going to dull it up a little bit. And then I'm using more concentrated ultramarine blue, very fine line to demarcate the petals. Maybe not so dark. By pressing the brush, I can get a nice shadow. In some places, I'll also add this as a more intense shadow to the center. And just to complete the picture, make a deep gray color using, I think we can use some cobalt blue and a little bit of sap green here. And black. I don't want it to look green, but there is a little green tinge to this next section that I'm making. That's the space between these petals. And the remaining can be cobalt and black, or ultramarine and black. Without the dark background, your purple may not stand out as much. All right. Okay, now I have covered all the points. So theoretically, you should be able to paint your hydrangea with all these. Do you think that's possible as homework?
Yes,
Yeah.
Aditi, should be.
Okay, good. Just think about it. If there's anything that you feel I've not covered, maybe when you start painting, you might come up with some questions. I don't think there should be any. But if you feel anything has come up, just put it on the group. Click a picture of the point that you have stopped at and have a problem, and share it. And if I feel that that has not been covered, then I'll make a small video of that and I can share that with you. Hopefully, I'll have the time to do that, but at least the question will be addressed, and in the next class, I can take that up. Okay? Okay, this should be fun. And after you've done this, then you can try the Ixora also. Great. Okay, so if all goes well, and if we finish this painting this week, then next week, let's look at different kinds of floral arrangements, unusual arrangements, not just a vase of flowers, something more quirky. These are very nice topics for you to make cards with, or little stickers, and put them up in your journals, or maybe even paint a t-shirt or something out of that. That's also always good. Okay, great. Chalo, I shall see you all next week. Have a nice weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, Aditi.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye. Bye.